I wasn't always a suspicious husband. If anything, I was the guy who believed in giving space, trusting my wife, and assuming the best in people. Maybe that was my mistake. Maybe I should have seen the signs earlier. But when you've built a life with someone, shared laughter, dreams, and late-night talks about the future, you don't want to believe that they could look you in the eyes and lie. Stephanie and I had been married for 8 years. We had a 6-year-old daughter, Emma, who was the light of my life. The kind of kid who wakes up singing, who still reaches for my hand when we cross the street. Family was everything to me. It was everything to us, or so I thought. We'd always made time for vacations, little road trips, beach getaways, even if we had to pinch pennies to make them happen. I worked extra shifts. I budgeted carefully. Every summer, I wanted to give Emma memories that she'd carry forever. So when Stephanie told me that this year's family trip was off the table, I didn't question it at first. "We just can't afford it right now," she had said, shaking her head with an exhausted sigh. I remember how she sat at the kitchen table that night, her laptop open, scrolling through bills. The stress lines on her forehead made me feel guilty for even suggesting the trip. "I know, babe. It's okay. We'll figure something out next year," I reassured her. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I love you. You always understand." I did understand. That was the problem. I started picking up extra hours at work, thinking maybe if I pulled in some overtime, I could surprise them with a weekend getaway at least. I even looked at a small Airbnb near the lake, just a 3-hour drive away. But every time I brought it up, Stephanie shut it down. "It's not just the money, babe. I'm just exhausted. Work is crazy. I need a break." A break. That word didn't hit me at the time, but later, I'd replay it in my head 100 times, wondering if she had been telling me the truth, or if she had just been laying the groundwork for what she had already planned. Because 2 weeks later, when I opened Facebook during my lunch break, I saw it. A tagged photo. Stephanie, on a beach, sun-kissed, laughing, drink in hand. Emma wasn't with her. I wasn't with her, but her parents were. And so was a man I didn't recognize. At first, my brain tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was an old picture? Maybe she had gone on a work trip and forgot to tell me? But then I saw the caption. "Family time is priceless." And just like that, my stomach dropped. I scrolled through the comments, my pulse hammering in my ears. People were reacting like it was just another normal family vacation. "Looks like an amazing trip. So happy for you guys." There were more pictures. Stephanie in sunglasses, lying out on a beach chair. The mystery man right next to her, a little too close. Stephanie at dinner, her parents smiling across the table, the guy sitting right beside her. I checked my texts. Nothing from her all morning. The last message she had sent was from the night before, going to bed early. "Love you." I wanted to throw my phone across the room. That was the moment the seed of doubt became something real, something undeniable. I didn't text her. I didn't call. I just sat there, staring at the photos, letting the betrayal settle in. She had lied to me, not just about the trip, about everything. And the worst part? I had no idea what to do next. I didn't say anything right away. Not because I wasn't furious, because I was. My hands shook just holding my phone, and my stomach twisted itself into knots so tight I thought I might throw up. But something in me held back. Maybe it was disbelief. Maybe it was the tiny, desperate part of me still hoping there was an explanation, some absurd misunderstanding. So I waited. I watched. I went home that night and acted normal. I made dinner for Emma, helped her with her bedtime routine, and then lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling while my mind ran in circles. Stephanie was still on her break. I checked her last message again, going to bed early. "Love you." How do you say that to someone while you're sitting on a beach with another man? The next morning, I scrolled through social media again. More posts. This time, it wasn't just tagged photos, it was hers. She had uploaded a story, a boomerang of her raising a mimosa, clinking glasses with him. Her parents were in the background, smiling, like this was the most normal thing in the world. My wife, the woman who told me we couldn't afford a vacation, laughing with her boyfriend. I clenched my jaw so hard it ached. I zoomed in on his face. I still had no idea who he was, but the way she leaned into him, the way his hand rested on the table close to hers, it wasn't a coworker. It wasn't a friend. It was something more. And her parents knew. They were there. They sat across from them, drinking, smiling, pretending this wasn't betrayal. I had to put my phone down. My hands were shaking again, but now it wasn't just anger. It was something colder, a realization that I was the fool, the punchline of some joke they were all in on. I wanted to call her, to scream, to demand an explanation. But then I thought, why? What was she going to say? I had to be smart about this. So I waited. I spent the next few days gathering information. I didn't just look at the pictures. I scrolled through her past messages when she wasn't home, checked our bank statements, and even went through old credit card charges. That's when I found it. Plane ticket. Not one. Two. Booked 3 months ago. She had planned this for months. That was the moment I stopped looking for an explanation. The moment my anger turned into something sharp and focused. She was coming home in a few days, and I had every intention of making sure she regretted it. The night before Stephanie came home, I barely slept. Not because I was anxious, I had moved past that. It was the kind of restless energy that comes when you know a storm is coming, and you're standing at the window waiting for it to hit. I had already decided I wasn't going to explode the moment she walked through the door. That's what she'd expect. That's what he would expect. No, I was going to make her feel safe in her lies. Let her think she had gotten away with it. And then, when the moment was right, I'd rip the ground out from under her. The front door opened late in the afternoon. Emma ran ahead, her little backpack bouncing as she threw herself into my arms. "Daddy, I missed you." I lifted her up and squeezed her tight, pressing a kiss into her hair. "I missed you too, baby girl." And I had. More than she would ever understand. Then Stephanie walked in. Sunglasses perched on top of her head. Sun-kissed skin. That glow people get after a vacation. The kind of glow you don't get from stress and exhaustion. "Hey," she said, setting her bag down with a sigh. "God, I'm so glad to be home." I nodded, forcing a smile. "Long trip. You have no idea." Lies so smooth she probably didn't even hear herself telling them anymore. I let her settle in. She unpacked a few things, went to take a shower, and by the time dinner rolled around, everything felt normal. Too normal. I wanted to see if she'd tell me anything, if she'd slip up. "So," I said casually over dinner, "how was the trip?" "Oh, you know," she said, twirling her fork through her pasta. "It was nice. Relaxing. My mom and dad needed the break. That was it. No details. No guilt. No hesitation." I sipped my water slowly, watching her over the rim of my glass. "And who's the guy?" Stephanie froze mid-bite. For a split second, she didn't move, like a deer caught in headlights. Then she did what cheaters do best, she played dumb. "What?" She let out a nervous laugh. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone, turned the screen toward her, and tapped the picture. The one where she was clinking glasses with her boyfriend while her parents smiled in the background. Her face drained of color. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. That's just a friend. "I told you my dad invited." "Don't." My voice came out low. "Even. I checked our bank statements, Stephanie. You bought his plane ticket. 3 months ago." Her fork clattered onto her plate. I could see it happening in real time, the wheels in her head spinning, trying to grasp at an excuse, trying to figure out what she could say to make me doubt what I already knew. "Why?" I asked, not shouting, not accusing. Just, why? Her lips parted, but nothing came out. For once in her life, Stephanie had no words. I leaned back in my chair, folding my arms. "That's what I thought." She swallowed hard, her eyes darting to Emma, who was too busy humming to herself, pushing her food around her plate. "We should talk about this later," she whispered. "No," I said. "We're going to talk about it now." Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for her water. "Please, not in front of her." I let out a short, bitter laugh. Now she cared about our daughter's feelings? Where was that concern when she was off playing house with another man? But fine. I wasn't about to let this turn into a screaming match in front of Emma. So I stood, picked up my plate, and gave Stephanie one last look. "You finish your dinner," I said quietly. "Then, you and I are going to have a real conversation." And with that I walked away. Because this was only the beginning. I waited until Emma was asleep. Stephanie tried to go about the night as if everything was normal, offering to help clean up, making small talk about the mail, even asking if I needed anything from the store tomorrow. Like she hadn't just been caught. Like she could somehow talk her way out of this. I let her pretend. Let her squirm in the silence as we moved around each other like strangers in the house we built together. Then, once Emma's nightlight was on and I shut her door, I turned to my wife. "Living room. Now." Stephanie hesitated. "Can we?" No, my voice was sharp. Final. "We do this now." She swallowed hard and followed me. I didn't sit. I stood in front of the couch, arms crossed, watching her sink down onto the cushions like a guilty child. I let the silence stretch, let it suffocate her. Finally, she broke. "I'm sorry." Her voice was small, weak. "I know I should have told you, but who is he?" I cut in. No emotion. No room for excuses. She flinched. "Just someone I met through work." I nodded, biting the inside of my cheek. "Work, of course. And how long has it been going on?" She hesitated. I pulled my phone from my pocket and tapped the screen. The photo, the caption, the plane ticket. "Don't lie to me again, Stephanie." My voice was low, steady, dangerous. Her eyes filled with tears. Not guilt, fear. "6 months," she whispered. I exhaled slowly, nodding. "And my favorite part? Your parents knew." Her head shot up. "No, they were there, Stephanie." My voice sharpened. "They sat across from you at dinner while you smiled and played house with another man. So don't sit there and tell me they didn't know." She clamped her mouth shut. "Was he worth it?" I asked. My voice didn't crack, didn't waver. Tears spilled onto her cheeks. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I felt like we were drifting apart. And I held up a hand. "Stop." She fell silent. I took a slow step forward, looming over her. "You didn't mean for this to happen?" I repeated. "Then tell me, Stephanie, at what point did you not mean for it? When you texted him late at night? When you booked his plane ticket? When you smiled at him across the table while your parents approved?" She sobbed into her hands. I felt nothing. No sympathy. No heartbreak. Just cold, calculated fury. "I need to know one thing," I said quietly. "Were you ever going to tell me?" Her sobs slowed. She peeked up at me through her fingers. And then silence. I nodded. "That's what I thought." I turned on my heel. "Wait," she choked out. What happens now?" I paused at the edge of the room, gripping the doorway so tightly my knuckles turned white. Oh, now she wanted to know. Now, after months of deceit, after dragging me through the dirt, now she wanted to act like this was something we could fix. I slowly turned my head. "You'll find out soon enough." Then I walked away, leaving her sobbing on the couch. Because I wasn't just going to walk away from this. I was going to make sure she regretted every single choice that led her here. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was heartbroken, I had passed that stage already. I was thinking, planning, calculating my next move. Stephanie thought this was just another argument. That we'd fight, she'd cry, I'd break, and then we'd work through it, like nothing happened. But this wasn't something you work through. This was the end. And I was going to make sure it ended on my terms. I spent the next day being methodical. First, I called a lawyer, told them everything. They told me I had options, but I already knew what I wanted. I was going for full custody of Emma. No way in hell was I letting my daughter grow up around a woman who could lie so easily, who could sit across from her husband, look him in the eye, and pretend nothing was wrong while sneaking around behind his back. Next, I pulled up our bank accounts. Over the years, I had been the one handling most of our finances. Stephanie had a separate savings account, but our main household money, I controlled that. And now I was making sure she didn't get a damn cent she didn't deserve. I moved my direct deposits into a new account, canceled our joint credit card, froze unnecessary spending. She had no idea. By the time I was done, she wouldn't have a financial leg to stand on. Then came the real fun. I reached out to her boyfriend's wife. Oh yeah, turns out he was married too. I found her through social media, sent her a message. Short, direct. Told her I had proof. She responded within minutes. We met up that evening. Her name was Claire, and when I showed her the pictures, the receipts, the plane tickets, her face went pale. I knew something was off, she whispered, staring at her husband's smug face on the screen. He's been working late for months now. I nodded. Mine too. We sat in silence for a moment, two strangers bound by betrayal. Then Claire looked up, her expression shifting from heartbreak to something colder. What do you want to do about this? She asked. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. I have a plan, I said. Her lips curled into a smirk. Tell me everything. Claire was all in. Turns out, she wasn't the kind of woman to sit back and cry about betrayal. No, she wanted justice. And when I told her exactly what I had in mind, she leaned forward, resting her chin on her hands, and said, Let's make them pay. We spent the next 2 hours ironing out the details. I handled my side, she handled hers. By the time we walked away from that coffee shop, we had a strategy so airtight neither Stephanie nor her boyfriend would see it coming. The best part? We were going to make sure it all unraveled in front of everyone they cared about. The first crack came when Stephanie tried to use our joint credit card to go grocery shopping. Declined. Then she tried to pull cash from the ATM. Blocked. She called me, panicked. Babe, I think something's wrong with our bank account. I played dumb. Oh? That's weird. You might want to check your account. I already knew what she'd find. Nothing. I had moved every dime of my income out of her reach. Even the mortgage payments were now set to come exclusively from my new account, meaning she had no claim to the house. Stephanie was suddenly realizing that, without me, she had nothing. She tried to play nice, cooking dinner, acting sweet, trying to rebuild whatever she thought we had left. But I wasn't biting. I kept my responses short, indifferent, watched her squirm. Then came step 2, the exposure. Stephanie's parents had planned a little get-together that weekend, family, close friends, the usual. And since they had been so supportive of their daughter's affair, I figured they deserved front-row seats for what came next. Claire and I coordinated everything. The night before, I printed out the beach pictures, the cozy dinners, the clinking glasses, the happy couple posing while her parents beamed. I even included the screenshots of the plane tickets. Put them all in a neat little envelope. Claire did the same for her husband. The next day, we both showed up early. Stephanie was already there, helping set up, acting like the perfect wife. She smiled at me, but I could see the nervousness in her eyes. She knew something was off, but couldn't put her finger on it. Good. Let her wonder. Guests started arriving. Laughter, drinks, music. Everything seemed normal. Then, at just the right moment, Claire walked in. With him, her husband, Stephanie's boyfriend. The second he saw me, his face lost all color. He froze mid-step like a man who had just walked into an execution chamber. Stephanie turned to greet the new guests, her usual hostess smile plastered on, until she saw who Claire was standing next to. Her whole body stiffened. I stood there watching the slow-motion horror unfold in real time. Before either of them could react, I cleared my throat, raised my glass. Hey everyone, I said, my voice loud enough to cut through the chatter. Before we dig into the food, I just wanted to take a moment to celebrate something really special. I locked eyes with Stephanie, held up the envelope. My wife and her boyfriend just got back from a romantic vacation together. The crowd went silent. Stephanie's mouth fell open. She actually staggered back a step. Claire took that moment to step forward, tossing her own envelope into her husband's chest. Hope you had fun, sweetheart, she said, voice dripping with venom. He fumbled with the papers, eyes scanning the damning evidence as his face crumbled. Stephanie spun toward me, panic flashing across her face. Wait, babe, let's talk about this. No, I cut her off. You talked plenty with him. Her father, the same man who had smiled across the dinner table while she cuddled up with her boyfriend, cleared his throat. Now, hold on. Let's not turn this into a... I turned to him, voice ice cold. Shut up. His mouth snapped shut. I looked back at Stephanie. Her whole body was trembling. I leaned in, my voice just loud enough for her to hear. We're done. Your boyfriend, your parents, you all made your choice. Now you get to live with it. Then, I turned on my heel and walked out. Behind me, the party erupted. Shouting.
Accusation.
Stephanie's mom sobbing. Claire's husband trying to stammer out an excuse. I didn't stick around to watch the fallout. I had already won. I didn't look back. As I walked away from that backyard, a weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying lifted off my shoulders. Stephanie's voice rang out behind me. Desperate. Pleading. Wait. Please, just talk to me. I didn't stop. Didn't turn around. Because what was there to say? The moment I exposed her in front of everyone, the spell had broken. The fantasy she had been living, the perfect lie where she could have her affair, keep me as her backup plan, and still be the doting wife in public, was gone. Claire followed me to the front yard, arms crossed, watching the chaos unfold from a distance. She exhaled sharply and muttered, "Damn, that was satisfying." I smirked. Hope it was worth it. Oh, definitely. We exchanged numbers, agreeing to keep in touch. Not for any romantic reason, just solidarity. Two people who had been played, now walking away with their dignity intact. Then, I got in my car and drove home. Home. Not our home. Mine. Because Stephanie wasn't welcome there anymore. The next morning, I called my lawyer and set everything in motion. By the time Stephanie finally came slinking back, eyes red, suitcase in hand, I was ready. I stood in the doorway, blocking her path. "Where do you think you're going?" I asked. She sniffled. I just need to grab some things." I shook my head. "Not happening." I changed the locks. Her face crumpled. You can't just." "I can." I cut in, my voice calm. "And I did." I handed her an envelope. "You've been served. Divorce papers. I'm filing for full custody of Emma." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Then, like the coward she was, she reached for the only weapon she had left: tears. "You can't take my daughter from me," she whispered. I leaned against the doorframe, tilting my head. "Oh, now she's your daughter?" I let that sink in. "You were so busy playing house with your boyfriend that you forgot about her. But don't worry, I didn't." Her hands trembled as she gripped the envelope. "Please," she tried one last time. "We can work this out. We can go to therapy." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Stephanie?" I said, shaking my head. "We are so far past therapy." She exhaled shakily. "Get out," I said. Her lip trembled. She turned, walking back to her car, shoulders slumped in defeat. I didn't watch her drive away. I closed the door, locked it, and just like that, she was gone. The weeks that followed were quiet, peaceful. Stephanie tried to fight the custody battle, but with the evidence I had, her abandonment, the financial proof of the affair, the witnesses, she didn't stand a chance. The judge ruled in my favor. Emma stayed with me. Stephanie got visitation. That was it. As for her boyfriend, Claire buried him in court. Took the house, the cars, everything. He lost more than Stephanie did. They didn't last long. The moment the dust settled and they realized their relationship was built on nothing but lies and secrecy, they collapsed. Stephanie tried to win me back a few months later. Sent messages. Tried to play the remorseful wife. I ignored every single one, because I was done. And for the first time in a long time, I was free.